Irene is going to share with us the Care Collaborative Respite Program for adults with dementia.
Good morning. This is actually a fairly new program. We had our first Care Collective session on July 10th, and we started 1 day a week. You can move to the next slide if you want. We started out 1 day a week from 10 to 2. 4 weeks ago, we added our second day a week, so we now meet on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 2. We have a social model of connection. Our passion is to provide community for people who are living with memory loss and actually community for their caregivers in a separate program we're just starting to spool up as well. We are volunteer powered from start to finish. If you want to keep moving here. I think you can keep going here. I think everyone now understands the respite model. So what we do in the 4 hours is we try to offer a real range of activities. We tend to move from activity to activity every 20 to 30 minutes to keep people engaged. We always stop at least every hour to do some kind of a physical movement. These are video clips that I'm not going to be able to play for you, just short clips. Balloon volleyball is what you see in the upper right-hand corner. When I first heard about it, I thought it was the silliest thing ever. Everyone loves it. They just love it. So almost every day after lunch, and we do serve, by the way, a hot lunch every day, we play balloon volleyball, or we do some other kind of movement, which is what you see, some chair movement in the lower right-hand corner, if you want to move on. Music, we have found that music is just unbelievably powerful, live music. And we now have a whole handful of musicians that we have coming in. We try and do music twice a day. So usually 10:30 or 11 o'clock, we have music, and then we end with music between 1:30 and 2. What we're starting to notice is our caregivers arrive early because they like to sit in and sing with us and appreciate the music that we have going on. That's turning out to actually be a larger cost for us because these are usually professional musicians. They can contribute some of their time, but they can't week after week, month after month. And so what we're starting to do is go ahead and pay these musicians at the same rate we pay our church musicians. And so bigger cost than we expected, but critically important, we're finding out. We have people who speak not at all, but when the music starts, they sing. And they keep time. We hand out drumsticks and such, and they keep time, and their faces light up, and they engage in a way that some of them don't with any other activity. So it's really powerful stuff. If you want to move along here. Mental stimulation. We play all kinds of games, very particularly focused on stimulating cognitive function, also fine motor function as well in some of the games. We have, a couple of dozen different kinds of table games we do with folks. Here they're playing, lower left, they're playing poker. The participant in the baseball cap there loves poker. We always have a poker table running, and we're playing other card games here. By the way, these are older pictures. They're taken in our church library. We've already moved to a larger venue because we've grown so rapidly. If you want to keep moving here. Special interest. So we have therapy animals that come in. The folks just absolutely love that. We have other people come in and set up very special kinds of crafts for us, or talk about special interest kinds of things that people might be engaged in one way or another. By the way, this little dog, though, is one of our favorites. We get him in once a month at least, if you want to keep going. Lots of crafts. This is really simplistic looking. Again, for Christmas, we created all kinds of crafts. Some of them are actually pretty cool. Some of them I actually brought home to use in my house for decoration. So they're not sort of trivial kindergarten kinds of things. Folks are really engaging in some really interesting and creative crafts. If you want to move on here. we're about social connection. These are all volunteers. We usually run at least 2 volunteers for every participant that's there. They are there because they are loving human beings who want to be there and connect and build friendships and build community with these folks who we have coming in. And they just do an amazing job of it. This woman in the lower left corner is one of our earliest participants. She comes virtually to every session we have. Her name is Carol. When she came to us in July, she was virtually catatonic, and she has just blossomed. She doesn't speak a lot, but she does speak, and I've had some limited conversation with her now. Engages in the music, has her favorites. So I have about 4 or 5 volunteers who I always pair with her because they are really able to connect and bring her alive. If you want to keep going here. Um, so we have a really strong feel that a social model means that there is really very little difference. People walk in the room, and other than a couple of our participants who really are moving out of the moderate and into the advanced stages, and sadly won't be with us probably for much longer, people can't tell. We wear the same name tags. We all participate. There's nobody in the center there. That's Coach you see standing there. She's our respite manager. Incredible woman. She runs all of our sessions, and I'm usually there keeping an eye on everything going on. Everyone else is at a table. You want to come and visit, you're sitting at a table like a volunteer. We don't surround our participants with people watching them, as it were. We're all there to build community. I even have volunteers coming up asking me, so is that a volunteer or is that a participant sitting at my table? And that's that. I measure that as a success of our program, that we are all there because we all live with something. And in this case, some of the people in the room live with memory loss. If you want to keep going here. Just some quick program information. We are there for people living with mild to moderate dementia. We are a social model. We don't give meds. People have to be able to toilet themselves and to eat more or less without assistance, although we do provide some help people cut up their food and whatnot. This is already outdated because we offer now Wednesdays and Thursdays from 10 to 2. We always include a hot meal because that's part of building community. We all sit together and share that meal, which is a way to build the social bonds along with the physical activities. And everything we do is focused on building relationship. No matter what the activity is, we focus a lot on the conversation that goes along with whatever activity we have so that we develop authentic friendship. Because these are all adults in the room, even if they have a significant memory loss, they're still adults with a lot to give, and they help us. Like I say, sometimes we have some participants who are very, very helpful. And I think some folks are absolutely convinced that they're volunteers because they're some of our best volunteers. Let's see here. I have a very strong commitment that we be a sustainable program. Years ago at our church, we had a respite program that died after their initial grant ran out. And so we charge $55 for a 4-hour day. We are a church, however, and we have turned no one away, and we won't turn anyone away. We also have some very generous donors, and I'll go through sort of how we're supported. But ultimately, I have a business model that will mean we will be sustainable, will be break even long term. And part of that $55 a day is how we're going to do that. It's still very inexpensive for the quality of respite care we can offer. But I need to know we're going to be around 10 years from now. And so that's part of how we do that. If you want to go on. Our volunteers, we now have 45 active volunteers in the program. They rotate through. We schedule them the way we schedule all our volunteers with our back office system. So it's a pretty efficient way to do it. These people We actually have about a third men and two-thirds women in our volunteer corps, although you wouldn't know it by this picture. We're finding that the men volunteers, our men participants who come in really need to connect to other men often. They have often only female caregivers in their lives, and they are desperate for male companionship. And so we tend to pair any male participant with at least one other guy, sometimes two, so that they can start building those kinds of connections. These are absolutely loving volunteers. Every woman in this picture actually is also a member of my pastoral care team. Of course, they're who I pulled first when we started this new ministry, and they're just incredible, already experienced. And by the way, they get 3 hours of training when they come in, as well as background checks if they haven't already been background checked, as well as our own what we call safe sanctuary training, which is about how to keep children and vulnerable adults safe in our building, in our programs. And then we have monthly trainings that we have set up as well, where we have professionals in the community come in and train on various kinds of things. So we had Stacy Gunnarsson from Granny on the Move come in and talk to us about communication. We had a wonderful woman come in this month who worked through some improv techniques for staying in conversation with folks. That was just a hoot. It was a lot of fun, actually. And so we are committed to the ongoing training of our volunteers as well. Let's see here, our participant bill of rights. We really, really stress and correct each other if we find we're not being very respectful and allowing people to make all the decisions about what they want to do while they're there. So nobody ever has to participate in any particular activity. We always have options. People are not spoken to, obviously, as though they're children, because they're not children. And we're there to build actual friendships with these folks. And I think we really succeed. When we started talking about this program last spring, there was real concern about, people with dementia might get agitated, angry. Well, that doesn't happen in our program. And I think in part, and Dr. Audie Black, when he came and talked to us, he's a medical professional in the community, has observed the same thing. When you're very respectful to people, people don't get upset and they don't get anxious and they don't, start getting loud or acting out in any way. We've had absolutely none of that in our program, not any of it. The one concern we have is a couple of folks who wander, so I always put several volunteers with them. And a couple of the guys, after 4 hours, they want to go find their wives. And so sometimes there's a certain amount of redirection that we have to do, talking to them about, when their wife is coming back. It's very interesting. The men go looking for their wives, but the women don't. None of ours so far seem to have that same kind of anxiety about their husbands coming for them. So there's some gender thing going on there I don't understand. Let's see here if we want to keep going down. Cathedral of the Rockies they've been in the community for 150 years. We have lots of community outreach programs, all kinds of things related to social justice. We run a daycare center that we've run for decades. It made it easier to spool this program up because we had the infrastructure in place because we already had a daycare center. And so this is basically an added ministry that is pretty consistent with the kinds of things Cathedral of the Rockies has done for decades. I do want to emphasize this is not a religious program. Most of the people there don't know that I'm a pastor even. We take any participants, we take any volunteers. I recently had a gentleman come up to me and say, I'm an atheist, but I want to volunteer. And I guess he thought it might be a problem, and it certainly isn't. We actually have volunteers from the local synagogue coming, as well as from a couple of other churches. We're there about loving community. There's certainly no requirement, and we don't talk a lot in religious terms at all. Even when the senior pastor comes in, we hand him a mic, but I lean on him pretty heavily. You're not here to give a sermon. So if you want to keep going down here. So we're at our downtown campus of Cathedral of the Rockies, so it's down on North 11th Street. We've already moved to a larger space in the facility. It's a very large facility. It's about 100,000 square feet and includes a daycare and a kindergarten downstairs. We are up on the main floor in what used to be our youth room.